and welcome to Sober Mama, the podcast dedicated to supporting women in the quest to ditch the booze. Join your host, sober coach and soon-to-be published author, Rach, as she talks all things alcohol and recovery. From real-life experiences to actionable advice on how to truly live your best sober life. Tune in to hear all about Rach's upcoming book, Sober Mama, and information on how to join her 90-day freedom program. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
Hello and welcome to Sober Mama. I'm Rachel Shepherd, a UK sober coach. I help mums to get sober, and my book is soon to be released in the next 6 months or so. December 28th, you can get hold of it. You can find all the details at sobermama.co.uk. So in the last podcast, I said I wanted to talk today about the timeline and what happens when you stop drinking, because for me, this is one of the biggest reasons why people struggle to quit, because they don't know it and they don't understand it. And I was certainly, I've just realised I look naked. I'm not at all. It's just really hot. So yeah, the single biggest reason that people struggle is not understanding what's going to happen to their body. Now, because we recover from a hangover fairly swiftly, I just presumed that once you've kind of got that level of alcohol out of your system, that's that. And you've just got to get used to, not going out and having fun, which is essentially all I thought giving up booze was going to be about. But the time that it takes for your body to recover and for your mind to recover is really significant. And if you're not aware of the process that you're going to go through, while you're going through it, it can be really, really difficult to navigate, particularly when you're in like this boredom stage where you can feel quite depressed. And if you don't know that this is a part of the recovery, it is so easy to conclude that sobriety is bollocks and you don't want to go there. And it's really easy to go back to drinking. So I thought I'd take today to just go through what the timeline is, because I found it to be incredible. When I started to learn about what alcohol is and what it does, this was a game changer for me. And I think education around what alcohol is and what it does is the first kind of big leap that anybody really needs to make when they quit. So first, withdrawal, first stage. It's not pleasant and it's not horrific. If you're coming off heroin, that's going to feel like you want to die, and you would basically do absolutely anything to get yourself out of that state. It's absolutely horrendous, but the withdrawal won't kill you. Whereas with alcohol, the withdrawal actually physically can be quite simple. My withdrawal wasn't that bad at all. I was a bit edgy, a bit anxious, a bit shaky, but it certainly wasn't anywhere near as bad as coming off a harder drug. So actually, it is more than tolerable for a lot of people. So first, you need to put the caveat in there. If you're drinking daily, you've got to see a doctor before you decide to stop, because albeit you might not feel particularly bad coming off alcohol, it can kill you if you're physically dependent. It's that serious, it's that dangerous. If you are having days off and you know you can come off alcohol and safely, then it really isn't that difficult. That first 7 to 10 days, when I say it's not difficult, I mean it's not difficult physically on your body. Mentally, it's a bit of a bitch. So what you kind of have to know is that once you get that first week out of the way, it really is downhill from there, and you kind of get over that mental hurdle as well. But essentially, you're looking at anxiety, sweating, irritability, stomach issues. You can Google it. There's a whole list of symptoms that going through withdrawal, but it is tolerable. And once you get to the end of it and that bit's done, you don't have to go back there again. So just knowing that this period of time is really short and the level of anxiety that you're going to get is super short. So I found that within the first 3 to 4 days, my anxiety levels went from something insane, like an 11 out of 10, to around a 2 or a 3. And then it's sustained from that period on. So if you can kind of keep it in your head, I've just got to get through this first week and my anxiety levels are going to come down significantly. I found that really, really helpful. And also, I'll come on to it in a bit about sleep, but you're going to sleep a whole lot better too. So telling yourself in that first week, if I have a drink, I'm going to sleep terribly again tonight. It's for me, that worked really well as like a nice little deterrent when I got a craving. So once you're through the withdrawal, the next thing you're going to hit is something called pink cloud. Most people get it around 2 weeks sober. And it's basically your body breathing this massive sigh of relief that you're not drinking anymore. You've not putting poison in there anymore. And your body just goes, oh, thank you. And you start feeling a little bit euphoric. And that sobriety is the best thing ever. And you can't believe that you've not done this before. How you look changes so significantly in those 2 weeks compared to any other part of recovery, because your skin looks 10 times better. You start losing that kind of that weight, particularly around people's faces. I notice it a lot. I was always very puffy when I was drinking. So when you're going through this massive, rapid physical improvement and you feel amazing. The problem with pink cloud is that it's transient and it really doesn't last very long. So most people hover around in this stage for a few days or a week or two and then come crashing back down afterwards, which is exactly what I did. So you generally know if you're in pink cloud, if you start waxing lyrical about sobriety to any bugger that will listen. And if you start pissing people off, that's a pretty sure sign you're there. So once you come out of pink cloud, essentially what you're going to hit is this strong periods of boredom, which we'll go into in a bit. But before that, there's a few earlier symptoms we need to talk about. So weeks 1 to 4, sugar cravings. For me, I was drinking 1 to 2 bottles of wine a night. That contains exorbitant amounts of sugar. So when I stopped drinking, I got sugar cravings and they were insatiable. I could not get enough of the stuff. It was madness. So crack on. As much sugar as you like. It's quite a nice way to trick your brain into think you're relieving some sort of craving, but expect them to last for quite a long time. I mean, I've heard some people say that they're mild for them. Maybe if you're a beer drinker, you're not getting as much sugar, etc. But certainly for some people, the sugar cravings are intense and they generally last around 1 to 4 weeks. So beyond sugar cravings, we've got the narcoleptic phase. So for all of you ladies watching, if you've ever been pregnant, very similar to first trimester, soul crushing, horrible exhaustion, can't lift your head up, and you need multiple naps during the day. I found this really tough, because I was still working full time, 2 young boys to look after. It was hard. And I'm a single mum, so there was no one to sort of pick up the slack. So I just had to really go easy on myself. I ordered takeout a lot, and I stuck to bare minimum with like house chores and things because I was knackered. And essentially, it's just your body repairing its damage. Your body does your best repairing when it's asleep. So your body likes to put you to sleep a lot. And the nice thing about this is that when you are sleeping, you're going to get the best quality, wonderful, amazing sleep of your life coming off alcohol. It is awesome. The bad news is that when you sleep really well, you're in a state of REM sleep, rapid eye movement. And this is when we dream. So when we drink, we very rarely dream because we bypass REM completely and we go straight from naught to coma, and you don't dream when you're in that state. So when you suddenly get sober, your brain kind of rebounds in REM and goes into overdrive. And with that, we get nightmares. And I mean, really, really awful nightmares. I've had some, honestly, Steven Spielberg couldn't rival some of the stuff that I've dreamt about. I couldn't come up with what my brain comes. I mean, you'd think your brain was on your side, wouldn't you? I can't come up with this stuff in reality. How my brain is able to concoct such atrocities in my head is staggering to me anyway. It's quite difficult during this stage, and that waking up feeling frightened. And I had this a lot for about 6 weeks. Again, some people just don't seem to suffer with this. But what I have heard from a lot of clients is not the kind of violent dreams that I got. Maybe I'm just a psycho, but it's more the drinking dreams and having dreams where you have to wake up and then remember that you haven't actually had a drink. And the only thing really to say on this is I don't think there's much you can do about it, but just knowing that's what it is helps. And knowing there is an end date, it's not going to last that long. And once you're through it, you'll be sleeping like a baby again. So it's just something to be tolerated, essentially. What have we got after that? So narcolepsy and nightmares. Nice thing is for your health around the month to 6 week stage is that your blood pressure and liver function starts to improve and your body starts hydrating so much better. You really start to notice the difference in your appearance, even more so from that first 2 weeks. And then beyond that, we've got this extended period where most people giving up. And that's between weeks 4 and 8. And the reason for that is when you come crashing down from pink cloud, you hit this boredom stage. And I think I've said before in another podcast, but this is just lack of dopamine. That's all it is. When you drink, your brain knows that it's going to get dopamine from alcohol. So it stops learning how to produce it. So when you quit drinking, it's still forgotten and it's got to learn again. And it takes a long time. It can take up to 3 months for that to fire back up again. So during this period of between weeks 4 to 8, sometimes a bit longer, you can feel depressed, flat, soul-crushing boredom. And so many people, if you don't know about this timeline, if you don't know what happens to the body when you quit, so many people, dry January is a really good example. People get to the end of dry January and they think, oh my God, this sobriety nonsense is awful. I'm going back to drinking. I've been there, done it myself. Once you know that it is just lack of hormones, it's something that you've got to grind through. And I promise you, I have never, ever, ever come across a client that has not got to the end of the 3 months and felt amazing, and has the dopamine always comes back. It just doesn't feel very nice while you're in it. And my top tip for kind of dealing with boredom is just to get productive. Now, if you read other Quit Lit, you might see, because I read quite a lot where people would say, do the things you enjoy. And I would just think, but I don't enjoy anything without alcohol. And I'm bored and I'm miserable. So it didn't work for me to do things I enjoy because I didn't find any fun in it at the time. I just felt miserable. But the one thing that I realized that I could do was just to get productive. So every evening when I put my kids to bed, I was in kind of thumb twiddling zone. I just started cracking on with organization. I mean, you can see behind me, actually, that's a result of it. Rainbow colored bookshelves and coordinated kitchen cupboards and rainbow organized wardrobes. I went through the house, cupboard by cupboard. Probably should do it again, actually. It's all cluttered up again. But by keeping your brain focused on doing things, you still get that kind of the joy from achieving, but you're not getting that kind of, lovely dopamine hit. So it's just one of those things to navigate again. And like I said, knowing that there's an end date to it, just use the time as best you can to sort your life out, by sort your life out, I don't mean fix everything, but, look at your surroundings, because often what's behind closed doors and wardrobes and cupboards is chaotic and reflective of our drinking mental state. So if you can clear that all out, it really sets you up nicely for when your dopamine does come back, that you feel kind of like all organized and ready for the Zen phase. And the Zen phase is the last phase, which is essentially around 2.5 to 3 months in, when your dopamine does fire back up and you start thinking, wow, this is what sobriety actually looks and feels like. And it is incredible. And the only way of knowing how much of an impact that can have on your life is to give it a go, is to try it. And, it's back to that sort of old saying, isn't it? Don't knock it till you've tried it. You've got no idea of how great it's going to feel until you give it a go. And you know that you can't feel all the good stuff until you've done 3 months. So keeping that time frame for me is really important. And you don't have to commit to forever right away. Just commit to that first 3 months and say, right, I'll see how I feel at the end of this. And, if I'm not enjoying myself, then to celebrate, I'll go out and get pissed, whatever you need to do. At the end, you won't want to do that, but don't put that pressure on yourself to quit forever straight away. It's too big, too huge. Just say, right, I've got to do 3 months because I'm not going to know what sobriety feels like. 2 months is not sober. You can't know what it feels like. You're not drinking, but that is not sobriety. It's not what it feels like. So yeah, that's my tips. I've got a really exciting podcast next. We're going to be talking with Jen Hurst, who is a sober coach herself, massive in the sober world. She's been doing it a damn sight longer than I have, and I'm really excited to get her thoughts on all things sober. So look forward to seeing you then. Take care, guys.